We're good, all right? We're good friends. All right, guys. Welcome to everybody to our weekly live show here. We've got our co-host Brian White from Futuraza. We've got Nick Gibbs from Investing Against the Grain. So we got several topics that we're going to talk about today. I think the first topic is what's going to happen for Tesla stock this year. We had Elon saying that it's going to be, a ballistic next year and incredibly even more the following years. But you have two, you're seeing the institutional analysts raise their price targets. You got Dan Ives saying that by the end of this year, he sees $2 trillion market cap, which would make the stock to be at $650. Then you got Fubon, Taiwanese research firm, just come out and say that they expect that stock to be $1,000 by next year. Is the rest of the year going to be bull, or is it going to be bearish, or is it going to be flat? Which is, I think where I'm sitting at. Had a really big debate yesterday on a space. Some people are saying that with the Robotaxi release second half of this year, they do think that that's going to be a catalyst for the stock. I'm not so sure. It's dipping toes in. So we will do that. Welcome, Brian, and welcome, Nick. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I think that the second half, if the Cybercab, not the Cybercab, but the Robotaxi network rollout is flawless, it could be a catalyst. But if it's anything short of that, I'm thinking flat. I'm thinking flat.
Let's have this conversation more in depth. Just introducing the idea first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just had some buffalo chicken, so I'm fed. So I'll be nice today.
Okay, good. You'll be nice today. Is that what it is? Okay, so now we know what it is. So the first item of agenda, if you guys would kind of just bear with me, is I wanted to share with you, I'm just about to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now, it's a vanity metric, right? It doesn't do much really necessarily, but it's just a fun thing to do. I'm 8 away, so I thought it'd be fun for us to sit here and just watch it roll over in real time at some point. So if you are watching this live and you haven't subscribed to me, Nick, please go check and subscribe to me now. And we can watch this hit 100,000. Nick, subscribe to me, dude.
I'm pretty sure I am. I'd be surprised, right? I have to be. If not, the YouTube algorithms really knows I watch your stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Let's look real time. Let's see if I'm subscribed to Herbert.
Yeah.
And I would argue it's not just a vanity metric. There is a different level of prestige that comes with it. Oh, somebody. That was probably Nick.
No, I'm at 994 already.
You weren't. Oh.
Whoa, look at that. It
go.
flips right in real time.
I was already subscribed. I can't help. Maybe I should unsubscribe.
995, 5 more. Who's going to be my 100th?
I'm going to unsubscribe. Let's see if it goes down. Unsubscribe.
No, dude.
This is good. Okay. Now I'm gonna subscribe.
Because you want to be like, dude.
What? I subscribed again. I subscribed again.
Oh, this is.
I only did it once.
It says 996 right now. So on my mobile phone.
Oh, there. That was me. That was me.
There we go. And worth noting that Nick and I also have channels. This show is going out on all 3 of our channels. We are also available for subscription at the same price. So we have some fun, you guys.
This might. I'm 997.
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Yeah. This is it.
Isla Bonita says they will be the 100,000th. No, maybe. It's, this is fun.
2 steps
Oh
forward,
man, I'm losing more than I'm gaining.
No.
I'm sorry, guys. We shouldn't be doing this. It's just fun to watch something. Oh, there you go. I got it. Thank you. I just curious. I just wanted to grab it on my screenshot. That's all.
Not yet.
No, I already got it on my.
There we go.
There you go.
Now we have the piece.
Thanks, guys. Anyways, I just wanted to, appreciate everybody who's been watching our show. This show, it's a labor of love, just for fun. This is what I said. What would I do if I was having fun? It's interview people and learn. And so I appreciate everybody.
Do I get a piece of the plaque? Like, are you gonna break me off a piece and mail it to me?
No.
Unfortunate.
So, and they made the wait. I look forward to that plaque, and that'll be just for vanity. I can look at it every day.
Where's it gonna go? Right back there, right above the bright.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. I thought that was fun just to watch something happen in real time. That's
Congratulations.
why we're doing a live show.
Well deserved.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the stock first, and then we'll go through some of the big news that happened. There's quite a few things that happened just in the last few weeks here. So let's get back to this conversation of what's going to happen with bulls versus bears in 2025. You got people like Dan Ives saying that he thinks that we will set a $2 trillion market cap by the end of this year, and continues to say that that's a $640 price target. His price target is $550 now, so he has continued to raise it. He wants to always, I think, be the person with the kind of the highest out there. Then you got Fubon just coming out with a $1,000 price target as well. That's pretty crazy. Thank you, Stephen Bank, for following all that. What's your thinking on that, Brian? You started with this. Why don't you get Nick first, and then Brian, you can come back and talk about it.
I was posting on X, so I was paying attention. So I know you're talking about Fubon. Is that his name? Fubon?
Yeah. What's going to happen at the end of this year? Do you think that
Yeah.
it's going to be a bullish year with the price target, or is it going to be flat for the rest of the year? Or
Okay.
what's going to happen?
Let me tell you the truth. Nobody knows. That's the truth. That's really what matters. Nobody has a freaking idea.
Yeah.
With that said, if I had a skew one way or the other, I would say that we are going to be flat from now to March, maybe even April. Come maybe sometime in April, maybe starts in May, I think we'll start to see a run up leading up to the Robotaxi, whatever's actually going to happen in Austin happen. And then I think that's what will play out for this first half of this year. The only wrinkle that might be more bullish would be if the new vehicles come out between now and then I would say that'd be a huge catalyst to send us up. And that, I mean, I don't know what that would be in dollars term, but I could see that being a big catalyst. Now, going into the back half of the year, I don't think that will have anything really to do with sales or deliveries or anything. I think that'll all be about how the Robotaxi is ramping. Have they added a new city? Has it gone flawlessly? Are there hiccups? Have there been any casualties? Any accidents? Right? What's going on with that? And so I think come June, things could get a lot more volatile potentially based on the good or the bad that happens with the emergence of a Tesla Robotaxi network. And we'll go from there. But I think there's a good shot that we could see $500, $600, $700 this year. I think it's possible, but a lot of things will have to go right, obviously, and there are still risks. So let me just go through this real quick, and then I'll pass it to Brian. The big risks I see are delay in the new gen vehicle because some people still really are invested based on that. Delay on launching a Robotaxi in June, maybe becomes July and August, which to us is irrelevant, but Wall Street will let the stock know. Any type of issues, any kind of hiccups with the rollout of Robotaxi, that everybody right now is salivating at their mouth to talk some kind of crap against Elon or Tesla or whatever. It's, I think, the highest it's ever been right now. And then again, a potential accident, potential fatality, anything like that. And then there's also the other potential risk by the end of the year. Does Elon's, Doge and all that actually have a impact on sales across the world? Don't know. And then I guess you could also throw in potential trade war, complete escalation with China to the point where they decide to take a hit on Tesla. Now, I do think a lot of those aren't going to happen, but I'm just trying to set the level playing field where I do think we could get to 700 potentially. But I also think that reality is probably more so between where we are now and like 500, somewhere in there. That's all.
I think we're joined by AJ. Are you there, AJ?
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Howdy. Welcome, AJ. Thank you for joining us. So thank you, Nick. What we're just talking about right now is what we think the stock price, what's going to happen by the end of this year. I was talking about Dan Ives, who still believes we're going to hit $2 trillion market cap, which is like a $640 price target. You got Fubon saying $1,000. I've I want to kind of debate whether or not the Robotaxi rollout is going to do anything to the stock at the end of this year, like significantly. Of course, we all said that we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll Nick just went. We're going to have Brian, and then be curious to see where you are on this, AJ. Go ahead, Brian.
So I'm thinking the PE ratio is sufficiently high that we need to see some execution just to not have the stock fall a bit. There is going to be execution. We're going to see Megafactory Shanghai ramping and rolling out. How much of that revenue will be recognized in Q2 and 3 is tough to say because it does take time to spin up that flywheel, but just the production should be enough to be at least neutral. We could see that improve. Like Nick was saying, the intermediate vehicle that we believe will be based on the 3 and Y. We've heard in just recent days, it's been reiterated that is likely to still come out first half. It is expected first half. What it will be is a tightly guarded secret, and Tesla's gotten really good at tightly guarding those secrets. The only spy shots we got of the Cybercab in advance had been mocked up to look like a little funky El Camino. I thought that was very clever and fun, and why not? But I think that we've got a lot of work to do to grow into the shoes we're already wearing, and that if we do see a big jump later in this year, it will be because the Robotaxi rollout went so flawlessly and delivered on our expectations while vastly over delivering on the market's expectations.
Yeah, well, let's discuss that even more detailed. I want to introduce AJ. AJ is one of the best Tesla analysts out there. His forecast spreadsheets, probably the deepest, most precise spreadsheets you've ever seen. I had him on my show just earlier this year, and he explained how he thought at that time the Tesla stock will hit around 600, 650, 700, around that area, 600s by the end of this year. And the reason is earnings. It's actually not hype. It's just earnings brought back from future years. AJ, are you still on track with that, or have you made any changes at all to what you showed on this channel a couple months ago?
Yeah, so this is quite a loaded question. So first of all, let's talk big picture. So the price target by year end is based on the next 4 unreported quarter as of that point in time. This is a very critical point to keep in mind, because what it means is by year end 2025, what's relevant for evaluation is 1Q 2026, 2Q 2026, 3Q 2026, and 4Q 2026. That's the key thing. And of course, 1Q 2025, so the current quarter likely will see, we know for sure we'll see a sequential drop in deliveries. This is partially seasonality driven because China is always weak in the first quarter because of the transition, yada, yada, yada. So there are a bunch of temporary factors that will depress deliveries. We also know that Shanghai Megapack factory has to spool up first, and all these things. So 1Q will be tough. But this is not a surprise, and anyone who really invests time in Tesla knew this from months ago, several months ago. So that's and for that precise reason, I think the share price reaction before we got all this geopolitical drama, etc. That's why the share price reaction on 4Q announcement was actually positive, if you remember. And even though the numbers, the 4Q numbers weren't that great, and also what was missing on the 4Q call was specific guidance for 2025, and then actually Elon basically took the guidance a little back by saying there will be growth year on year, while previously he got it to 20 to 30% volume growth. But anyways, so a big picture is there was a lot of reason for the stock to sell off, but it didn't, because investors moved on. They already basically anticipated that, and they looked forward to the post-auto future of Tesla, which is AI products, FSD, Optimus, yada, yada, yada. and so basically, now coming back to the question at hand, so my price target, because it's driven by earnings in 2026, because my price target is by year end, and at that point in time, we will be looking at 2026. I still feel quite good about my a price target. However, you probably won't remember my analysis, but I included sort of a share price walk, where you see basically if you assume a certain constant multiple, and as earnings come in from future periods, the share price should trade up on increasing earnings power. For example, once 1Q 2025 is reported, the next 12 months earnings will be second quarter 2025, third quarter, fourth quarter, and then first quarter of 2026. So you have always this roll forward as a quarter is reported, and as the quarter rolls forward, a good analyst should factor in Megapack factory having spooled up, first Robotaxi revenue rolling in, and all these things. And so we should see some earnings, some EPS increases, and given Tesla's very high multiple, this is a I don't know what's the correct saying, but this is the Tesla's high multiple is a blessing and the curse at the same time. The curse is it makes it very, very volatile, and it can pull back quite a lot because there's just not too much earning power right now supporting it, unlike something like Nvidia. But on the other side, as soon as you have a bit of earnings upside, it's already incredibly valuable, and that's why I still feel good with my PT year end 2025. Are there risks? Of course, there were always risks, but there's also, where risk is, there's also upside. And so overall, I feel still quite good, but let's not be naive. That there's some tough weeks ahead. For example, if you open the newspaper, not the newspaper, if you go online and you look up the news, and you look at all these horror messages, oh, Tesla sales down 60%, blah blah blah. But this is mostly the seasonality driven, or it is because of the Model Y transition, blah blah blah. So these are all just headlines. So you just have to look through all this nonsense, and then basically you have to look at the end of this year. So basically, the way I look at it, big picture, and then I stop. Is this year 2025 is really back end loaded.
Back end loaded. So you're still at the 650. What's your actual number or range?
So my price target was always I called it plus 600. So basically, so the minimum. So basically, my expectation is that by year end we should see a 6 in front of the share price.
Okay.
I hope it's still 3 digits.
That's a good way to put it.
And it was simply based on the multiples valuation methodology I laid out, plus my earnings forecast.
Okay. No, I mean, I encourage people to go and check out AJ's X account, and you subscribe to him at ALOJOH. I already put that in the description. And he has a YouTube channel, but he and I did a show on this channel, and he shows you the spreadsheet so you can agree with him. But what's unique about his price target by the end of this year is that he's saying that he's calculated the earnings. This is just earnings backtracked into by the end of December. And he was explaining that most analysts will go out by year. And that's why he's able to feel confident that this is the case. Okay. What you guys want? Any questions for him, guys?
What kind of timeline are you looking at for Megapack Shanghai in terms of revenue starting to show up?
So the ramp itself, I think, will take place quite quickly. We're talking China here, and in Chinese, there are manufacturing kings, and so the question is really where the first end customer will be in Asia. I don't expect first sales to take place in China, so they probably ship somewhere in the neighborhood, but this will take then several weeks. And then depending on how permitting in the specific country works, etc. With a little bit of luck, first revenue 2Q, of course no revenue in 1Q, and then hopefully a bigger impact from 3Q. That's kind of my base case right now.
Great.
Okay. So let's slight change in the topic, not just a little bit of a drill down. AJ, you kind of said that it's a earnings kind of brought down, but you also said Robotaxi revenue. And so I'd be curious to say what your Robotaxi forecast is for the year 2026. Some people in a space I was in yesterday was arguing, excuse me, that when Tesla releases the Robotaxi, commercialized Robotaxi program in June, that at some point in that second half of that year, people will recognize that this is a real deal, it's actually working, and they see the stock maybe 50% doubling, the stock doubling because of that. I personally don't think that that's what's going to happen, because it's like dipping a toe in. It's going to be just small number of cars and going to be a small little city. Then it's going to be expanded, then expanded. But I don't think that that's going to capture the general investors, sentiment and get them excited, because we already have Waymo, and Waymo's now in 7 cities. And my wife, for example, had no idea that Waymo existed because they only have 700 cars. It's just a few number of people. Where do you guys stand? Do you guys think that Robotaxi could be a catalyst? And then AJ, why don't you answer it first? Because I wanted to know, what was your estimate for Robotaxi revenue for 2026 that then adds to this price target?
So on the specific revenue question, I have to disappoint you because I don't have my model in front of me right now. But big picture in terms of the sort of share price reaction. So my expectation is, the community dissects pretty much everything all the time, and therefore you notice there's always the buy the rumor, sell the news kind of situation. So I expect the stock to trade up into sort of the release of the Robotaxis, and then they have to basically deliver, and then there will be probably some volatility because of course there will be an accident. It's like mathematically almost, because there will also, and let's not be naive, there will be YouTubers, they will try all kinds of stuff to make the Robotaxi crash, and this will get 5 million views and stuff. So there's a huge monetary incentive, and you just need to be ready for that. But then, so after this initial spike up and then some volatility, and I think it will trade to a new level, then it basically has to deliver. And then the next spikes will be driven by earnings. Once we see margin improve, earnings come up, then we have kind of this NVIDIA moment, because the history of NVIDIA is quite interesting, because at NVIDIA, even when people knew, oh, they have like a killer data center product, okay, stock traded up, but then NVIDIA had to prove over and over again its earnings generation and margins, and then you had these successive earnings calls where it just spiked up, and I think Tesla's future, if everything goes well, could look quite similar. So the Robotaxi impact, I think, will not be kind of overnight, because there's one cohort of investors that kind of buys into the story, and they will be early. But then there's the other cohort of investors, they want to see the money, and then they buy into the stock, and so you will have like step ups. This is kind of how this has always played out in these high performing stocks. I mean, Palantir is a similar case.
Yeah, but so when Robotaxi launches in June, I'm expecting. I asked the question to a group of people yesterday. I think Omar thinks it's going to be less than 1,000 cars, and I agree. I think it's going to be more than 100, but it won't be, tens of thousands. Because first of all, it's a Tesla-owned Model Ys, not consumers, not ours, and it's going to be just dipping a toe in. So they'll slowly do it, and so by the end of the year, maybe they'll have 1,000 plus, but it's up to Tesla how many they're going to insert there. I think it's going to be a small number. So I don't think that we're going to see a revenue contribution until 2026. Yeah, from Robotaxi.
Yes, and I haven't posted this yet. So, my detailed model on this, but initially, because you have to also keep in mind, Tesla is already quite a big ship. So to move the needle, you need like several hundred million in post-tax earnings to make a dent, and that's why the financial impact will take some time, because as Elon explained, you have to roll it out, blah blah blah, and of course this will take a bit of time, and I mean the big question really is, can Tesla really turn on the fleet, and could there be sort of these revenue streams? That's another question. But coming back to my price target and of $600. This is based on 2026 earnings. So for me, from a price target to get to $600 a share by year end, what happens in 2025 is actually not that relevant. And that's why in my price target, there's a lot of, there's many months where this can ramp and grow, etc.
That's true, because second half of next year, that's when Elon said our cars will go in, and that's when we can actually see real potential revenue per city.
Yeah, exactly. And in my price target, there's the 4 quarters of 2026. So when he launches in mid 2026, there will be basically 2 post-launch quarters in my earnings number.
I gotcha. Thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions you guys went over. I'll keep it short. Stock will absolutely move leading up to June. After that, like I mentioned before, the volatility is all based on how the rollout goes, any accidents, any non-accidents, how they scale, how they go out in cities, new cities. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen. Those are my thoughts.
But do you think stock will rise based on Robotaxi release in June?
Isn't that verbatim what I just said? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think so. Interesting. By the way, yeah, what I actually do, well, actually, the thing I'm thinking about is actually that I honestly think the stock will rise, but it won't be because of Robotaxi. It's going to be about bots.
How are you ever going to distinguish it?
Yeah, I think that when you see 1,000 bots in the factory by the end of this year, that's when most investors will open up their eyes. I'm not sure that a commercialized Robotaxi at small numbers in a city is enough to make that happen this year.
Hold on. You're telling me between right now, we're at 380. Mm-hmm. You think between now and June, the stock's not up?
What I'm saying is I don't think that in June, the second half of this year, that's what's going to double the stock. I don't think we're going to see a double stock. I think that
but that's different.
I don't know what's going to. Yeah.
The doubling thing, that's stupid. That's just a stupid thing to say. It's not going to double. But to not think we could be at 450, 500.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm just saying that whether or not it's going to be a massive catalyst or not. I think that, the NVIDIA moment, that only happens if revenue comes in or earnings comes in. But then this idea that, it's going to just make everybody goes, oh my God, Tesla solved it. I'm a little bit more skeptical about Robotaxi until next year. But I think bot could be the one before revenue comes in, before anything. That's the one that could actually excite investors ahead of time.
You're like Gary Black meets Warren Redlick in a entity.
Don't, please. What are you saying?
I don't even know how to understand that.
What are you saying?
Am I wrong?
I
think the key point about the bot will be for people to really take it serious is that it actually does something that does genuinely add value. For example, it cannot be, you guys remember, is probably we got a video where there was a bot that moved some batteries into a box. Yeah. That was actually not a real task, because there are highest throughput machines that would do this. This was just a showpiece because nobody in the factory actually does that kind of task. And so you have to show that the bot doing something that is really value add, and not that you rip out, $2 million piece of machinery. No, you can literally replace a human that did just an hour before the same task. That would blow people's mind.
And that's what the potential is that by the end of this year, Elon says, I want 10,000. Okay, we're not going to get 10,000. Let's say you get 2,000 bots, but they're all supposed to be, according to Elon, doing real useful tasks in the factories, not just standing there. I've built 2,000. They're actually doing something. So imagine if they show you a Gigafactory Texas, and we're talking 1,000 bots. We're talking 2,000 bots throughout the factories, moving around, picking place and so forth. If that happens, I think that could be enough to be the catalyst that makes people's imagination go wild and go, oh my God, I'm going to invest in this company because it's going to be sold next year. It's going to be real impact.
I think all that Elon would have to say on one of the earnings calls is we deployed X bots. It can be a small number, can be 100 or 200. And if he says, oh, and this saved us 50 FTE, 50 FTE is full-time equivalents. This is the kind of stuff investors love.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
I just don't know what moves the stock anymore. I've seen, this quarter we had kind of disappointing numbers and some interesting guidance, and the stock did really well. This is one of those cases where everyone always says, I've met people say I sell every quarter and then buy back in 3 days later. And this is one of those quarters where I think you would have been wise to not do that. Maybe over enough time it makes sense. But the market is very irrational, and I do not know what controls it. I do love it when people say that somehow we are changing stock prices, and I hasten to point out that that's impossible. If you look at the days following the Cybertruck official launch, there were videos from Marquez Brownlee, from Sandy Monroe, from Jason Camisa that racked up tens of millions of views raving about the Cybertruck. Stock didn't move. If those can't move the stock, what power do we have?
Can I just boast a little bit? So I actually predicted that the stock would look past the bad financials, and I documented.
Yes, you did. Yep,
and also in the 3Q after earnings dropped, in the first minute, I said the stock would rip on these numbers. So I have a pretty good track record on this stuff. But of course, I can only do super short-term or long-term predictions, because in the super short-term, the next day there can be some macro event, the terrorist or whatever. But in these things, I have a pretty good track record because I've been studying the stock for well over 10 years. And there are certain clear patterns that emerge, and that it's absolutely not perfect. I'm not suggesting I am, but I have a pretty high hit rate, and let's see how this quarter. The thing is, I can't do it like in 1 quarter in advance or 6 quarters. I basically need to see how the sentiment evolves on X, the numbers, of course, and what people discuss. But then basically a few days before the earnings call, I have a pretty good view what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and it's documented.
I would not to burst any bubbles here, but not to be controversial. Me, never do that. I don't know if I would consider this looking past the numbers. We've gone from 410, 415 down to 380.
Sorry, you're muddling the argument. I said on the print what would happen, and of course, the further you go away from that point in time, there's all kinds of macro. There was the tariffs stuff, but just on the print, what happened is stock first moved down in the aftermarkets, but then the following day traded up. So and then you stop there. You cannot go any day further out than this, because then you have the macro.
Oh, well, in that case, I called that too.
You did. Okay, so guys know I have a policy. I don't like to talk politics. Having said that, in that vein, if this is something associated with the stock or the company, then I think we do need to talk about it. So I want to ask the question whether or not you guys think that there's a peak hatred for Elon Musk at this point, and whether or not that is now impacting both the stock and the business of sales. But a year ago, this was a big topic, right? Oh, every time Elon tweets and these crazy things he's tweeting, he's getting into politics, and this started to rise up. Many of us said, well, actually, we don't think that that's impacting neither the stock or the business. And I think we were proven correct because the surveys and the actual sales kind of, showed that it was kind of a wash. Having said that, though, I think that right now, this is peak. We're at the peak. Do you guys agree with that? Hatred for Elon, therefore impacting Tesla.
I'll jump in on this first because I'm going to probably be the least political. But I have seen long-term supporters on Patreon stop supporting me and let me know that it's nothing personal. It's because they can no longer support anything Elon does. I know people who have had in excess of 10,000 shares who have decided to sell them. They are no longer comfortable being associated with it. Are they crazy? It doesn't matter. That's not the question. The question is, have I seen it? Has it happened? The answer is yes. In the cast for the play I'm in, I'm systematically going through the cast list and giving everyone rides in my car because they have to experience it firsthand, butts in seats. And I've had one gentleman who's a very nice guy say, just can't do it. Just can't do anything associated with the guy. To pretend that has no impact on the brand, no impact on sales, no impact on the stock is difficult to say. I know that I haven't picked up a bunch of conservative Patreon supporters to fill the roles of the people who have left, but I don't know. I know there is good money in saying that Elon's infallible, and that is something I'm not comfortable doing. He's the first to say he's fallible, and I think there's no other brand with quite as vocal of a CEO on issues like this. If you go to the other extreme, there are people who say we are hardcore, left or whatever, and they'll say straight up, I understand that we will not get as much business because of our views, but it's a moral thing, and we're okay with that, and the shareholders know it. So I know that a neutral company can have opportunities where a company that is headed by someone who is very strong-willed in one direction or another may see limitations. So that's my experience.
Yeah, I would say we are not at peak. I don't think peak has hit us yet. I think we're what, 2 weeks into this election. Elon just started working with Doge about a week and a half ago, so all this just started.
I'm
I
saying
would
peak as in it's the highest it has been since ever, and then you're saying it can keep going up for sure.
I'm saying the Elon hatred is on a bull run.
Yeah.
It's having its NVIDIA moments.
Yeah.
However you want to say it. We are rising at an exponential rate.
Yeah, there you go.
But at the end of the day, I think it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You know what knows no political party? Prices. People don't care where their food comes from, where their car comes from, where their t-shirt comes from. They don't care if it's the best thing they can buy at the best price. That goes beyond any political lines, and people can sit there and say, no, I wouldn't because of XYZ. All right, we'll see what happens. So you're going to keep paying 10x for a ride or per mile versus not. You're telling me you're going to go ahead and all of a sudden buy all your clothes at these very expensive instead of using the ones that come from Vietnam or China. Like, no, people don't do that. People go where the prices are. Go ahead, AJ.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, further out this won't matter because the market is so large, etc. And but I think what Brian talked about was, I think, maybe more in the present. Is there a non-zero number of vehicle sales lost? Probably yes. How big the number is, I don't know, but when you look around, there is quite a bit of hatred. But in terms of the hatred, this has kind of evolved over time. Initially, it started out as hatred for the EVs, unreliable, catch fire, and all this nonsense, the battery not lasting long, and all this stuff. And we kind of moved on from that. Last time I saw electric vehicle fire article, it's been a while. So they figured out this doesn't work anymore. And then, of course, Elon became more political, and now they moved on to the next sort of thing. And you've seen this on Twitter, and you probably know people. I mean, some people split over the Trump vote, and if even families split over, who they vote for. I think it's entirely conceivable that the same types of people might not buy that brand and instead go for another brand. So I think there are good arguments to assume that at least currently this may have an effect. But apparently Tesla managed to sort of compensate for that because we had all-time high sales. Of course, this was driven by significant discounting, financing, low financing rates, blah blah blah. So Tesla could compensate for it, but to assume it has no impact, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think, Herbert?
Yeah. I was going to share what I'm thinking. So I think the stock is not as impacted as people think. I think sales of vehicles, pretty sure it is. I think that when you've got innovation, though, like Robotaxi or bots, that just overcomes any of the changes because some people don't want to buy things anymore. So I think that the stock is not necessarily going to be impacted. And the other thing that reason why I think that is that in the last 3 years, the stock has been pretty flat. And what has happened in that 3 years, right? We had all these issues and so forth. There was already lots of hatred for Elon at that point. It washes out any of the weak hands, and it's replaced by people with the strong hands, the people who's been holding on even despite all these things that's happened, despite what Elon said this time or that time. They've already removed them off. So yes, I absolutely do believe there are going to be a lot of people dumping Tesla stock because of what Elon is doing. But then there comes a point where he's already done the worst that they could think of. It's already been done, so that yes, it continues to happen. And though people who continue to hold the stock are the ones who've already said, I'm okay with it. So I think moving forward, I don't think it's going to, the stock is necessarily going to be impacted. I think sales of vehicles are. Now we have to also think about global impact. And of course, this hatred for Elon is most concentrated in the US. There's a lot of the Europeans. Apparently, from my understanding, I'm not from there, is really standing up in arms as well. But I don't think this translates to China or other countries as well. So, yeah.
It's interesting, Herbert. The quote unquote hatred for Elon Musk. I kind of take back what I was saying. I don't actually think it's going exponential. I think the volume is going exponential. The outcry is. I don't think it's spanning across to people. I don't think more and more people are really starting to hate him. And the thing I see is, again, there's a loud few, right? We see them, we hear them nonstop. They're literally a comedy like treasure trove right now. But it's interesting to see all these other companies come out and kind of tack a bit to the center, back to the right. And all these companies you're starting to see are kind of saying, all right, we've done the DEI experiment. We're going to lean more towards meritocracy, which is essentially all Elon's saying is like, let's behave on our budget, on our spending. Let's, do things based on merit. And that's it. Like, that's literally the message over and over. And it's interesting that, yes, there's a loud few, but where are the loud companies? Have we seen any? We haven't seen any. And I think that's very interesting that you don't see these companies pushing back against Elon or Tesla or SpaceX or anyone. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the close thing. see
Sorry.
is a political situation in Canada.
Keep the conversation just on impact to business and stock, if possible, guys.
So you're just jumping in there, but
I was.
companies are not commenting on Tesla, Elon, etc. That's the norm. That's expected. That's what you expect normally from business, not be politically engaged, because they have mostly a downside but very little upside, and that's why nobody.
But they have been.
They have. What did they say?
Prior was what I'm saying. They were talking about DEI. They're talking about I don't know, like literally everything.
They were all yeah, okay. But that's
ESG. I mean, you can go on and on. They've been political.
Yeah. They no. They were basically just bowing down to the woke movement, which included DEI, and so they were forced into it in many ways, and by them now reversing it, you can tell that they didn't want to do it, but they were forced to, because there was a very vocal minority that put
Agreed.
pressure on them. And but I think maybe I misunderstood you before, because before I thought you were talking about these companies are not talking against Tesla or Elon. That's what you expect. You expect them to shut up and not say anything, because again, they have little upside in engaging in political discourse.
Yeah, I guess the point I was trying to make is that before, whether it's DEI or green energy or ESG or whatever it was, they were very vocal about like, oh yeah, look, we got this department. Oh yeah, we're doing this. Oh, look at our score on this. And to your point, they're playing the game constantly. But now when they finally get a chance to, hey, if you really believe in that, you can keep doing it. Or you can say, no, I'm done with that. Let me move on and just get back to business. They're choosing just to get back to business.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on, guys. Let's move on. So that's let's get back to Tesla. We talked about Robotaxi impact to the stock. We talked about, what's happening, the impact to the stock here with political scenario. What about the new vehicles? So, on one hand, people are saying, hey, the investors have moved on from vehicles, because even with the reduction in the financials across the board, not a big deal. But on the other hand, people are saying, hey, when they release these new segments, which is a brand new market segment, it's going to be a pop to the stock. Which is it?
New vehicles is going to be, it's going to be big. They don't half-ass vehicles. They often say that they're going to. Well, we're going to make a rear-wheel drive Model 3. It's not going to be as exciting. I mean, it's still going to have the same best sound system you've probably ever owned, and it's still going to do 0 to 60 quicker than a Viper. So they don't half-ass it. I'm confident that will open up a new market. If it's even $5,000 less. Now, Herbert and I have a discussion coming up where we talked about a $3,000 discount on a decontented Model 3 might not do the trick, but a $5,000 discount on a slightly different form factor, maybe it's a hatchback instead, could be exciting, could be something that people really go for. And getting into new markets, I think, would expand it in that way and make the brand more personal to a lot of owners.
AJ, you next?
So I study the auto market quite a bit, and a very interesting segment is a segment that is, surprise, surprise, also SUV, but a slightly smaller SUV than the Model Y. In many markets in Europe and Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So the Model Y is actually too large, and you can actually prove it by looking at other automakers and their top sellers. And just to give an example, the T-Roc is VW Group's global bestseller, and they sell a different version of that vehicle under different brands as well. But this is basically the bread and butter product. And that vehicle is an SUV, but it's a little shorter than the Model Y, and a tiny bit narrower, and that makes a huge difference in European parking garages. I mean, if you ever visit European countries, they're quite cramped, and this makes a huge difference. And a lot of people are just not comfortable driving a large car like the SUV. I know to the American mind, it sounds crazy, but it's true, and it's the same case in Asia, where the Model Y sells very well, but a smaller form factor would find
Sell
a
even
lot
better.
of buyers. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the only
RAV4.
the only problem is, I hate to tell you, but there will be 100%. There will be some cannibalization. I don't know how much. Maybe it's not that much a big of a deal, but there will be some cannibalization if there's a smaller SUV.
I'm less worried about that because if it's made on the same lines as the 3 and the Y, Shanghai, of course, is already running as close to capacity as they always can. But Berlin and Texas have surplus capacity. As long as it still expands the market, that's enough for me. And yeah, the RAV4 is Toyota's best-selling crossover form factor, and it is smaller than a Model Y. It is, and we even saw some Ford. I don't remember what it was, a very small Ford crossover SUV that was sold in the US for a time that was made, that I don't think was made here. I think it was made somewhere else. And that kind of size, I think would sell. You've still got passenger space, and sure, you don't have as much space for passengers and cargo, but most people don't need both at the same time. I think it would be a seller.
Yeah, and you touched on a very important point. It's made on the same lines, and therefore the depreciation charge per vehicle goes way down because Tesla depreciates all their long-lived assets on a straight line. It's not volume driven, and hence the more volume you can pump through the same lines, the less depreciation charge you have, the more margin you can show, etc.
So all four of us here think that the release of new vehicles is going to be a catalyst for the stock.
I for the stock itself, I just don't know. I think it could be.
I think it will. I mean, from my experience, when new stuff comes up, nobody has seen these new vehicles. But once we get leaked, there will be probably a little pop. How big it is depends on the environment of the market, because you always have to keep in mind. I mean, there's obviously Tesla-specific news, but then there's also market news. And if there's like a terrible market, it might not do anything. But if there's like a bullish market at the moment, the reaction might be significantly above what you would expect. And that's why it's always useful to look at the beta of Tesla.
And what about the battery constraint? So Elon made it clear that they're trying to make sure that they're going to have growth this year, but the battery constraint is one thing that they're working on. So kind of like, okay, we're going to release you new products, but we can't grow as fast as we have until we solve this battery constraint. That put a damper on things?
I mean, yes, but I am waiting for more clarity on what he means by cell constraint. He did say that, well, when we put cells, we have to choose between stationary and automobile. And there isn't that much crossover because all stationary is LFP and most automotive is NMC chemistry. I think it's a matter of getting the right batteries to the right places. And if we're talking about a model that would also be made in Berlin, they don't have the same import restrictions on LFPs that we do. Maybe AJ could share what he knows about import restrictions on Chinese batteries. If you know, that would be helpful.
Oops, sorry. Something just dropped. And now, to be brutally honest, I'm not 100% sure. As far as I know, there is some import tariff, but it's just sort of the standard tariff, like the 10% tariff that was on imports before. But I'm not 100% sure. But so far, it appears like this is, I mean, Tesla already started like a few years ago building the building for the battery production, but they stopped because one, they didn't get the EU funds that EU promised. It would have taken too long, and then two, the cost of producing batteries like on site in Berlin is probably still higher than shipping the product from China plus tariffs to Berlin. So that's kind of my understanding right now. But the exact amounts of tariffs, etc., I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, Brian, you're gonna go and then you'll come back when we close this show down in 5 minutes. You stay on this, audience member, stay on the channel, and you'll be redirected to Brian, and Brian's going to answer questions and answer more information. Thank you, Brian.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask you, Nick and AJ. You said something very important, AJ, which what I've learned over the years is that for a company like Tesla, so far, it's a growth company, innovation company, that any kind of advance that they do, any kind of announcement, it doesn't do anything to the stock if the macro is down. If it's a macro's down, it doesn't matter what you do and say, nothing will pop the stock necessarily, okay, in general terms. If the macro is up, that's when people are more willing to take go risk, right? Beyond risk, at risk, and take money investments. And then that's where you might see some movement in the stock. Is that what we're seeing for today and for the rest of the year? I mean, again, nobody here knows what's going to happen to macro, but in general, the sentiment, are we in a bullish market right now or are we not? If you had asked me this question before the end of this year, everybody was bullish, very, very, very bullish. Now, not sure. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just asking you guys what it is.
Technically, you can measure it, and the way you measure it, you look at the PE of the S&P 500, for instance, and you look at whether it's above or below the mean, and what you see right now, we are meaningfully above, so we're objectively trading at above normal valuation level. So that is something you can objectively say. We are not at crazy high valuations, but we are in an elevated territory and can have a debate whether this is justified or not. But this is kind of the situation right now. So to speak of a bearish market, there's basically no supporting evidence right now.
Yeah, AJ is right on that. We went into this year arguably in the most bullish we've ever gone into any new president taking office. Like many people would say we're overextended from a PE perspective, but yeah, there's zero indication that we're in a bearish market. And even if you look at it broadly, macro wise, we're really the only game in town is the United States. We are the envy in the world when it comes to investing right now or how the markets are doing. Europe is, I mean, we know what's going on there. Regulation, no real innovation. Their innovation is taxing everybody. China is they're still dealing with everything's going with housing. They're trying to stimulate the economy there. Like we're literally the only real game in town. And I would even say maybe not even all of the US, right? Like definitely not all of the US. S&P, NASDAQ, pretty strong. Russell's okay-ish, kind of not. But yeah, all indications, things are really bullish. And I think if you're talking about more idiosyncratically looking at Tesla is doing great. Like we just hit all-time highs. Yeah, we pulled back, but we just hit all-time highs on less profits. Like there's obviously a lot of bullishness in there. And I think investors are getting very, I don't want to sound cliche and say animal spirits, but people are getting very optimistic about less regulation, more pro-growth type US and what that could mean. So I think by all indications, things are bullish. Now there's headwinds and there's risk out there when you talk about debt, when you talk about geopolitics, potential wars or conflicts, a misstep with tariffs, something like that. But all indications show that we are good to go. And keep in mind, right now, this lull in February, March, this is standard for the stock market. This is very standard. I mean, this is almost textbook for this time of year.
Great. Thank you, both of you. So I got another question here. It's arguably that the reason why we're so bullish, it's mostly because of AI and mostly because of the Mag 7. and it's been borne out based on what we're seeing. Of course, small caps also starting to show, but mostly it's these guys. And so we're starting to see, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the investor community, the big whales and others, are starting to recognize Tesla as the king in AI because they're realizing physical AI. They're starting to understand that physical AI, robotaxi and bots, is the best use and the most lucrative use of AI. And they're seeing that LLM, finally, they're understanding that LLM might actually be a commodity. And hats off to you, Nick. You were shouting that for a long time. You kept saying LLMs is a commodity. It's a commodity. It's a commodity. And then, of course, now everybody's realizing that's the case. So do you both think that the sentiment for Tesla stock, as people realize it is an AI play and it's the best AI play, is that happening this year?
That's a loaded question.
I
don't know.
It's a great question. It's a great question. Come on.
You know my point of view. I think the market prices all of this in pretty efficiently. You know, I think we are where we are because people are giving Tesla credit for their AI plays, robotaxi humanoids. What I don't know is I don't know the meaningful move that we'll have from now until any kind of real realization of those AIs where people can use it in a high margin type use case. I mean, because even now, everyone can get FSD, but is everybody getting it? They're not using it. You know, so many people don't even know about it. So maybe that's intentional. Maybe Tesla is just not interested in trying to market it yet until it's perfect, or maybe they just want to wait to market until they have Robotaxi out there. I don't know. But even with the humanoid, let's say you're right, and they have 1,000, 2,000 humanoids working in the factory. Who's going to know? Elon will talk about on an earnings call, just what like he's talking about FSD. But then what? Like, I think people are going to look past and be like, yeah, it's probably just another Hollywood gimmick show thing that they do. And, you know, they'll see in the core like, oh, well, if they really have all these humanoids, then why didn't the cost of labor, cost, you know, of goods or manufacturing, like, so we should see it somewhere number. Where is it then? You know, I think you'll just see a lot of naysayers when it comes to that. And I think that's kind of par for the course with Tesla. They did that with you know, the Model 3, they did it with the Model Y, they're doing it with FSD right now. I don't see any difference in seeing that when it comes to the humanoid. So I don't know, Herbert. It's hard to say because don't forget, it was only a Hertz announcement that all of a sudden set the stock off last time. It's like, what? A Hertz announcement? That didn't make sense to me. So the answer is I don't know. I don't think anyone knows.
AJ?
There might be an interesting constellation with what's happening in China. So in China, there are tons of startups that are working on also basically an Optimus copy, just like they copied the Model Y, and they're quite you know, they show a lot of stuff on Weibo and other, you know, Chinese social media. So there's a lot of content out there, and a lot of them, they look funny and not very capable, etc. But just as we have seen in electric vehicles, do not underestimate the Chinese. In 6 months from now, these bots that looked funny and goofy to us, they will be vastly improved. Make no mistake. But the thing is, I talked to a lot of investors, and it's also my view, the Chinese equity market is largely uninvestable because there's one person who calls the shots in China, and that's it. And he has a track record of, you know, wrecking industries and businesses, so nobody wants to invest there. And when you look at the long-term stock market performance in China, it's awful compared to the S&P 500. So what is it that investors do? That they look at these developments in China, and they look at, okay, what's the next best proxy I can find in a market I feel comfortable in investing? And the obvious answer is Tesla, Optimus. and then some misguided souls will look at another company I don't even want to mention right now, but bottom line is improvements we see in China could actually create a positive read across to Tesla, even if Tesla doesn't show us anything, because they want to pull like an Apple. Apple is known to only present product, at least in the past, that is like polished, and so there could be a lot of expectation baking in going on as we see more improvements out of China. This will be maybe an interesting case this year.
I agree with you. That's it. Wonderful. Thank you both. Great conversation. Thank you, Brian. We'll revisit us next week. Stay on the channel and you'll be redirected to Brian's channel. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.